All right, here we are. Let's look at this problem and see what's going on. Pretty basic stuff. You have a ladder checkmate idea with rook to d3 check, king to c1, rook to c4, king to b2, he gets away. But here's the crusher. It's a skewer. Decoy, king takes rook, rook takes bishop check, and then king d2, rook takes free rook. You know, don't be fancy. Well, what do we have? What we have here, notice he took our pawn, we can play pawn takes pawn check. He's going to play king to c4. Now this is what I call the brute force technique. Pawn takes pawn check shows us his defensive idea, sidestepping. What if we just play this intercepting type move? Here, now we have rook checks, but this is not good, because he just goes king to f2 or king to e2, but we can play Forkula. Or Forktown population, U. Crunchy. Okay, this looks like a rook to g8 check. What's he got? King. He's got rook to f8, and then we play unblockable diagonal, queen g6 check. King to d8. Or, actually, we have another move. Rook g8 check. Rook f8. Rook takes rook check. King takes rook on f8. Bishop to h6 check is a crisscross. Yeah, it's checkmate. Watch the checkmate here. Checkmate. That's what I saw in visualization. This shows you why visualization is so powerful. I did this without moving a piece. You heard me do it, and then I showed you visually. Okay, this is a classic. One of the things you want to do when you're attacking is you want to play moves like queen to d2 here. Sometimes you'll even sacrifice a piece to gain this position of queen next to king. Now you got to be careful because he's threatening check, and if you move the f-pawn, it's a checkmate. However, let's queen check him. All right, now, once again, we could do the same check again. King e1, king g2, check here. Although, is that really that helpful? Maybe we should just play this. We don't need to checkmate him. That's it. Game over, brother. Oh, queen, eh? What does that do? Loses. Almost moved away like an idiot, though. I had not noticed that pawn. I wasn't looking there. But it took my time. It was all good. Infiltration with rook checks on b8. Rook takes rook. Queen takes rook check. King can go to h7. And now what can I do? I can play queen to b4. I can play queen to b4 anyway. That's a good question. Well, I could disrupt his position with rook takes g7 check. Oh no, I see what to do. Yeah, brute force technique shows us his idea of escaping. So let's flip this. One of the things I've mentioned is that when you ask yourself the correct question about the position, the answer will become crystal clear. The secret is how do you learn to ask the right question? Well, you look at things, brute force technique of rook b8 check, for example. After that, I looked at rook takes pawn check. Rook takes g7, king takes g7, queen to b7 check, and I get my rook back with an extra pawn. Not bad. And then I realize, wait a second. Instead of that, so the first move, the first level was rook b8 check. The second level was rook takes pawn check. Well, now I see I have a monster attack. Look at this queen. There's an X-ray attack here on g7. What if I just play this move? Yeah, that's what I thought. He's in major league trouble. Now the question is, what can I do with this move? I can rook check him again. Doesn't really seem like it does much. However, let's look at rook checks. Rook takes rook, queen takes rook check, king to h7. Seems essentially forced. I can play queen to no, not a7. I can play queen to queen to. That's a good question. Queen to b4. I don't really like queen to b4 myself, though. I want to play something that's more attacking. Because the reason I played c4 check is that, he has a hard time defending the g7 square. I cannot, man, I'd love to play a move like this, but that's not happening. Rook takes bishop, king takes rook. Queen to b7 check, what does that do? Wins the rook. Oh, there you go. Wins the rook. There you go. Chunk. Chunk. So this was using what I realized on what I called level 2. The level 1 problem. The level 1 attempt was rook b8 check. The level 2 was, moving in, or actually level 1 was rook b8 check. No, sorry. Was rook takes g7 check, king takes, and then queen b7. So that idea was very valuable, but not for the win of a pawn, but for the win of the bishop.